What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Titletown Talk. I'm your host, Ian Ewing. I'm coming at you from Madison, Wisconsin on a rainy Sunday. You might be able to hear the rain in the background. It's also a little bit windy, and for some reason, the window in the background makes a really weird noise. So if you guys hear that, do your best to ignore it. On today's episode, we're going to preview the most likely position the Packers will draft in round one, which is defensive tackle. I know some of you will not be happy about that, but that's the reality we live in. I think this is probably the route they're going to go. This is the bulk of the draft. This is the best position in the draft, in my opinion, defensive tackle, and there are a lot of players I think that will be there when they pick. So we're going to go through all those guys today, and next week we're going to preview the offensive line. I'm going to upload a cornerback episode possibly tonight/tomorrow, so you guys will get two for this week. After we preview the offensive line, excuse me, we're going to go through the other positions that they could draft and then some players to watch. We won't do any deep scouting on those players outside of just kind of the basics. And then we're going to start doing some mock drafts. We're going to talk through some different scenarios that the Packers could choose to see through, I guess, and who could fall to them, maybe the ideal scenario / the worst case scenario. I have a few of those. Some surprise picks. We have a lot of fun on our way. But first, before we talk about defensive tackle, let's talk about some other news and notes. Aaron Rodgers not going to be a Viking. So obviously I spent a good chunk of the show in the beginning last week talking about that. He took a meeting with the Steelers this week. The Vikings, of course, leaked that they're going to go with J.J. McCarthy, which is kind of what I figured they would do personally. This brings a little bit more uncertainty to the Vikings. The Aaron Rodgers would have made them better, not better than last year, but better than McCarthy. Now, I actually was really high on McCarthy in the draft. Again, I was under no illusion that the Packers were going to draft a quarterback last year high. But, I just love the draft. I'm a nerd for it. My favorite player in this draft is Ashton Jeanty, who I think is going to end up on the Bears. I really hope I'm wrong, but I do think he's going to end up on the Bears. So let's all just send our energy that won't happen. But again, Aaron Rodgers would have made the Vikings a good team this year. We all know what Aaron Rodgers does when he has a chip on his shoulder, right? Doesn't sound like he's going to be a Viking. I guess there's like a possibility they're going to revisit it later. I would expect that if there's an injury and he's still out there. But at this point, I think it's going to be Steelers or retirement. He took the meeting with the Steelers on Friday, like I said, and I guess it went well according to some reports. So we'll see what happens there. I am really excited, though, because the Packers play the Steelers this year. And if the Packers play Aaron Rodgers, it is going to be a ton of fun. We're going to preview every game this upcoming season, and that will be a fun episode. Next news item, top 30 visits. We have not talked about this on the podcast yet, but top 30 visits are something the Packers use as a tool to, obviously they use it a little bit to throw off the scent, right? That's what they do. In some cases, like last year, for example, they brought in a guy named Jermaine Burton. He was a wide receiver from Alabama. I was actually a big fan of his, ironically. Ended up getting drafted by the Bengals, I believe. He was a top 30 visit last year. They brought in a couple other receivers. They're really just doing that, partly to throw off the scent, but a lot of the players that they've drafted in the past, guys, have actually been top 30 visits. So there's definitely something to that. Every time that they do a top 30 visit, we'll report on it here in the podcast. Their first one was with none other than Shemar Stewart, edge rusher from Texas A&M. You guys know I'm a big fan of his. I said on the podcast in the Edge episode last week that there was no prayer that he was going to fall to the Packers, and I still don't think he will. But it's interesting. There have been a few draft analysts who've sort of predicted that he's going to fall a lot further than I think he's going to fall. Daniel Jeremiah, you guys know I'm a big fan of his. He's probably my favorite draft analyst. He does talk to the teams, by the way. He had him falling all the way to 32 to the Eagles, which the last thing they need is another defensive end, right? But like I said, he actually talks to GMs. So I thought that he would go earlier than this. I still think he will, right? But you got to think Goody's doing his homework on this. I can tell you with certainty, guys, if he falls to even 20, Goody's going to find a way to draft Shemar Stewart. They also brought in James Pierce Jr. I basically just brushed him off last week. We didn't even talk about him. We didn't do a scouting report on him or anything. He has all the personal stuff going on. I don't know what the specific issue is, but I would be surprised if they drafted him. Maybe they brought him in just to kind of talk through some of those things, those character concerns. He is 6'5", so he's plenty tall, but he's in the 240s. So I don't expect him, he's a little too skinny for the Packers. I don't expect them to be interested in him. I don't think it'll matter, though. He's probably going to get picked earlier. So if he makes it to 23, I bet they'll pass. Next particular news item, this is really interesting, guys. Tet McMillan, he's the number one rated wide receiver. Say that one 10 times fast, guys. In the draft this year, I'm a huge fan of Tet McMillan. You guys know I mentioned a little bit in the pod, the wide receiver episode, that I'm a big fan of his. He's sort of been thought of as a top 10 pick for quite a while, but he's starting to fall a little bit. I believe Todd McShay had him falling quite a bit. Daniel Jeremiah had him falling. It really is just because of the 40 time. Daniel Jeremiah had him going to, I believe it was 20 to the Chargers, which that's interesting. If you guys haven't watched Tet McMillan, pull up the Colorado game when he played against Travis Hunter. He balled out in that game. And really, his strength is contested catches, and he's really wiggly for being tall. Big body, amazing hands, playmaker, leader, all the things that you'd like about a receiver. I don't think he's going to follow the Packers, but interesting enough, the only GM that was at Tet McMillan's private workout was none other than Brian Gutekunst, the Packers GM. So, to me, that could just be him doing some homework on him just to kind of see if the 40 time is real. Scouts had him anywhere from a 4.53 to a 4.62. I'll tell you what, he's a tier 1 receiver for the Packers. You guys know I went over the different criteria. He's tier 1 for them. So if he does fall, I have to think that they'll be pretty interested in Tet McMillan. Daniel Jeremiah explained why he moved Tet McMillan down. By the way, below Matthew Golden, which Matthew Golden is my favorite receiver. I don't think the Packers are going to draft him, like I said, but I do love him. He made a good point, Jeremiah did, about this. He said that there really have never been successful receivers that have been drafted that run under a 4 or 5, I think is what he used, in the top 15. So what that kind of shows is NFL teams really do want speed if they're going to use a high pick on a receiver. So we'll see. I would be very interested to see if he falls. I'm starting to get this weird feeling, guys, that the Packers are going to have somebody unexpected at 23, like Jihad Campbell. He's a linebacker. By the way, Goody was at the Alabama workout this week, and I don't really know who they would even be interested in other than Jihad Campbell. We'll see if that ends up happening. Linebacker would be interesting with Quay Walker. Will Johnson, Tet McMillan, Shamar Stewart. I kind of have this weird feeling that somebody unexpected is going to fall to them at 23. Now watch, all that will happen. They'll pick Landon Jackson or something like that. So anyway, let's talk through the defensive tackles in this episode. We're going to start with none other than Walter Nolan from the Ole Miss. So size-wise, he's 6'3", 305. He's listed at 25 on the PFF board, 24 on the consensus board. So right in that range that the Packers pick. He's got 3-down potential for sure. Very highly rated run defender. He had a 92 run defense grade from PFF last year. He had 25 QB hurries, 75 pass rush grade. So he's definitely versatile. He can play against the run or the pass. He's what a lot of scouts have called a twitched-up athlete with violent hands. He's got a really insane rip move that you can see on all the highlight tape. You can see it on his regular tape too. He wins really, really quickly. So kind of in that way, he reminds me a little bit of Kenny Clark. Now, again, they're a little different on the size. Actually, they're really not super different on size. Walter Nolan's a little bit light for 6'3". 305 is a little on the lighter end, but he's been falling down the draft board pretty dramatically. Initially, I saw him as like a top 15 pick. Daniel Jeremiah, again, somebody I respect, had him falling out of the first round entirely. So really strong run defender for his size, super high motor as a pass rusher, really strong upper body. He's got a lot of potential in pass rushing that we have not seen yet. So I could see the Packers liking him, even though he's a little bit on the smaller side. We're going to talk about two other guys that are a little bit more likely, in my opinion, that are bigger. At some point, they're going to not only have to replace Kenny Clark. I think this is probably going to be the last season that Kenny Clark plays for the Packers, RIP. They also have to replace TJ Slayton, which is another important thing to think about in this episode. TJ Slayton, I thought he was somebody that the Packers would re-sign. They didn't. He had a massive impact on their run defense last year. We talked about it. They allowed an extra yard per carry on snaps that TJ Slaton was not in. Now, I do think that that's a little misleading because TJ Slaton did not play on later downs. A lot of teams run on third down just to kind of pick up extra yards. I think there's a little bit of context in there that we're missing with TJ Slaton's stats. I'm not super high on TJ Slaton. I really liked the pick when they picked him. But ultimately, that nose tackle position is going to be Kenny Clark's, in my opinion. However, having a run stuffer like TJ Slaton, drafting somebody in that mold is going to be something they need to figure out. That being said, I don't think Walter Nolan's going to be the pick. I really don't think he's going to make it to the Packers, first of all. I think he's going to go a lot higher. In fact, all these defensive tackles could go a lot higher than we think. Scouting report, though, is positives. Just so you guys know with scouting reports today, these are a mix of my own as well as PFF, NFL.com, as well as a little bit of NFL Draft Buzz. So kind of a mix of all those. I don't want to take credit for all of these. Again, super powerful hands, super twitchy, fast, explosive. He has a really quick get off. So again, he jumps really, really quick in the snap. He's a playmaker. There are a couple plays on this tape where he lays out full body, trips up running backs in the backfield. He's a really strong tackler. You can see that as well. Super high effort guy. And for that size, he's got really long arms, which I'm going to talk about arm length here. The Packers like guys with longer arms, basically at every position. Okay. So he does match there. On the negatives, he's a little bit slow. He hesitates a little bit at the front of plays. He's a little slow to identify the play. That was something that was in all the scouting reports. And so it kind of just sort of indicative of his instincts not being great. He's a little bit raw in that aspect, right? He relies a lot on just being a freak athlete, which he is. This is another negative that a lot of people have on this list, by the way. Tends to pop upright out of his stance. So he kind of loses leverage to guards, which, again, that's something that you can play. You can have kind of sloppy technique. You can get away with that in college if you're a good athlete, but all these guards and centers in the NFL are freaks, right? Packers have some of the freakiest ones on their team, by the way. So, like I said earlier, I'd be surprised if Walter Nolan was the pick here. In fact, if he was the pick, I would be quite shocked. I see him as a little bit redundant with Devonte Wyatt, personally. Now, Devonte Wyatt is going to be a free agent next season. We'll know here in a few months, I think next month, if they picked up the fifth-year option on Devonte Wyatt. I do think that they're going to re-sign him, to be clear. I expect him to show out this year. He's really already shown out as a good pass rusher that doesn't finish, by the way. Again, sort of like Walter Nolan. But we'll see. Walter Nolan, super raw. He might have the highest ceiling of all the defensive linemen. Right? Obviously, Mason Graham, we haven't even talked about him. He's a top 5 pick. There's no way he's going to make it this far, right? Excuse me. So, as raw as Walter Nolan is, I think there's a chance that he could end up being the best one in this class. The reason I'm a little hesitant to pick him for the Packers is, again, that size. 305 at 6'3" is a little on the lighter end. We'll see, right? So that is Walter Nolan. Interesting player for sure. Next guy, Kenneth Grant from Michigan. Now, this dude is an absolute freak show, guys, an absolute freak show. He is 6'3", 339, which is nuts. He's number 20 on the consensus board, 17 on PFF's board. When I first started looking at the draft guys, he wasn't even in the first round conversation. So he's been moving up pretty dramatically. Personally, if I had to bet money, he will not be there when the Packers pick. I think he's going to go really early. There are a lot of teams in front of the Packers who have very similar needs. The wide receiver, defensive end, defensive tackle, that's what the Packers need the most. That's why I have this feeling that Will Johnson's going to fall. We'll see. Can't wait to talk about him in the cornerback episode, by the way. His player comp for PFF was B.J. Raji, Kenneth Grant. I'm very, very high on him. He's my favorite defensive tackle probably in this draft. Him and the next guy probably are really close. He is the most likely athletic profile that they would like in the first round. He's, again, massive, 339. I would say he moves like a tight end at times. He's, again, just a freak show athlete for 339 pounds. And he doesn't have a lot of bad weight either, guys. That's the crazy thing. You look at this guy, he's just a massive human being. So PFF grades last year, 83 overall grade. He had a 75 pass rush grade, 23 hurries, 3 sacks, 9% pass rush win rate. They had him playing a lot of nose tackle for Michigan, so I don't think he was really asked to rush the passer very much. He's going to rush the passer a lot more in the NFL, especially if he's Kenny Clark's replacement. He did have an 88 run defense grade, though. So, what role does he have in 2025? I think he makes a big impact in 25 if the Packers pick him. We still have Kenny Clark there. He would instantly take TJ Slaton's snaps on early downs. His size will give him a lot of upside on rundowns for sure. He's got a higher ceiling than Mason Graham. Again, I said it earlier with Walter Nolan. I think he does too. Mason Graham is kind of just a very high floor pick. I like Mason Graham a lot, but Kenneth Grant has a higher ceiling. So even if he's just a rotational guy in 2025, which is what he'll be, I think he'll have a big impact. He hasn't even tapped his potential as a pass rusher. So again, the Packers need a guy who can get pressure on the quarterback. We've talked about it already. Any Packer podcast, Packer person will say the same thing. So I do think that that's going to be a little bit, I don't know if he's going to make a big impact in that aspect this year. But again, direct replacement for TJ Slaton. He'll be better than Slaton, I think, immediately. His strengths, exceptional quickness. So again, freaky athlete, doesn't have a lot of bad weight on him. He gets off the ball really, really quickly. He's great in the stunt game. The Wolverines used him a lot in stunts, which again, somebody his size, they typically don't use those guys in. But again, he's so damn athletic. To use a defensive tackle his size in the stunt game, again, really, really athletic, super quick. But he's also got some acceleration. When he gets past the lineman, he flies at the quarterback. He had 5 batted passes this last season, so really active hands in the passing lanes, getting his hands up when the guy's throwing. There's a special talent to that. It's not like I bought to pass. It's it takes skill to do that, and he did it a lot. 5 batted passes is a lot. Very versatile guy. I think he can play the nose or the 3-tech. He can move all up and down the line. He's not going to be an edge guy, right? But on the interior, I think he can play anywhere. He can absorb and split double teams really effectively. This is all over his tape. Again, he can hold a double team very, very well. He has a really, really effective swing move, arm over technique that he uses. He uses it against the run and the pass. Super, super fast when he does it. Weaknesses, sort of like Walter Nolan, like the other guys, he plays a little bit too upright at times. His size gets him sort of playing stiff, straight up. Inconsistent hand placement as well. That can be coached, right? Very inconsistent as a pass rusher. His 9% pass rush win rate was pretty... If you get it over 13, that's a really good pass rusher. So 9 was a little on the weaker side. There were some games, though, like Ohio State, he played insane. And then he just no-showed against like Indiana and teams like that. So again, when it matters most, he showed up this last year, right? So anyway, he's very quick to get off the snap, right? But he does, I think it takes him a while to sort of identify different run fits. I don't know how to say this other than he looks like his speed and his quickness is inconsistent. When he knows what's happening, he's very, very quick. But I think he might be one of those guys who's just a little bit in his head. So again, I love Kenneth Grant, super high ceiling, whatever role the Packers need him for this year. He'll be able to do it. I will not be shocked, though, if he's gone by the time they pick. Like I said, I would actually be more surprised if he was there than if he was gone. I could see him going all the way up at 10 overall. I think the 49ers will like him. I think the Chargers will like him. The Chargers really, they don't have anybody on the defensive interior. The Chargers are 100% going to draft a defensive tackle. So I think that's probably, even if he starts to fall, that's probably where he's going to go. Again, the one thing they have going for him, defensive tackle is really, really deep in this class. A team that's in the teens doesn't need to pick one here. They could get him in the 30s or 40s. So we'll see. Next guy, the most likely, the betting favorite. If you guys ask me right now, who are the Packers going to pick at 23? The next guy is my pick. His name is Derek Harmon out of University of Oregon. He is 6'5", 310, so a massive freak show. He's 22 on the PFF board, 30 on the consensus board. He's flying up draft boards, guys. He's the betting favorite from some sports books. Again, I think he's also the most likely to pick, just out of my opinion. Goody and John Eric Sullivan, all of the Packers' upper guys, they were all at Oregon's Pro Day the other day. So they clearly have someone at Oregon high on their board, I think. I think Harmon's probably the guy. I think Jordan Birch could be the guy. You guys know I like Jordan Birch. I gave him his flowers last week. He's very similar in terms of upside to Kenneth Grant, but he's not as heavy. He's taller. So he's 2 inches taller. He's a little bit more of like a Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton hybrid. Out of all the guys that the Packers can pick, he's the most pro-ready pass rusher. Sorry, I can't talk today, guys. We've talked about it a lot. I think he can be really disruptive instantly on passing downs. If you put him next to Devontae Wyatt on third down, I think that's going to be an insane combo. That's why he makes obvious sense for the Packers at 23. I think they haven't addressed pass rush yet. I think there's still a chance that they could get in on somebody out there like I don't think Trey Hendrickson's going to be the guy, but there are a few other guys out there that I think could end up getting moved. Trayvon Walker's been mentioned. I think that would be interesting. The guy on the Eagles, Bryce Huff. He's an interesting guy too. But again, even if they do pick up one of those guys, defensive interior, if they get some pass rush there, that's huge. PFF grades, 83 overall last year. That's great. Here's where it gets fun. 86 pass rush grade. He had a 91 grade in true pass sets. Now, what that means is when it was obvious that the team was passing, he had a 91 grade. He had a 17.6 pressure percentage. That's insane. So that right there, 43 hurries, 5 sacks, 7 quarterback hits. This dude can rush the passer. He had an 80 run defense grade too. He's probably the most well-rounded defensive tackle prospect. So again, Walter Nolan, he's a little bit more, I think a higher ceiling. Mason Graham, more of a run defender. The reason he's not higher is the lack of production. He's fluctuated in weight a little bit too, but he's rising up boards quickly. He wasn't even in the first round conversation, guys, like 2-3 weeks ago, and now I've seen him as high as 15. His strengths, super versatile, can play up and down the line, very athletic. His length is insane. 34-inch arms, guys. On top of his speed, he had a really good 40 time. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. He has a quick and powerful punch move, great arm over and swim move. He's a really smart player. Coaches have actually described him as someone who knows what's coming before the snap. That's interesting. He has a nasty bull rush that he uses. The Washington game particularly, he looked insane. He's, despite being, 6'5", he actually plays with really good leverage. He has good pad level. He has a sky-high ceiling as a pass rusher, high floor as a run defender. Weaknesses. The weight that he carries, the fluctuation in weight, he can gain some bad weight. So again, he's listed at 310. He's been like 330 before, and he doesn't look as, jacked as Kenneth Grant, just for example. Not a great tackler. He gets a little over-aggressive in the run game. He kind of runs himself out of the play sometimes because of just how intense he is, which, again, you can coach that. He plays the wrong gap at times. Like if a team runs like a counter in misdirection, I think he gets a little too excited and he, pees down his leg, figuratively speaking. Earlier in his career, too, draft sites had pointed out that his motor was a little hot and cold. He definitely got rid of that perception at Oregon, but that's something that teams think of. It's something they'll be a little concerned about, rightfully so. Kind of in summary, I'm a huge fan of Derek Harmon. He's the guy I put on my Madden team already, so you guys know they're probably not going to pick him now. If I put him on my Madden team, they ain't going to pick him. He's not quite as freaky of a physique as Kenneth Grant, but again, he's just as good of a prospect, if not better. If they took Harmon here, he's going to pay off big time this year as a pass rusher. I think he can eventually be a really good run defender. He is a perfect pairing with Devontae Wyatt. That's why I like this. If they want to have Devontae Wyatt here for the next 5 years and they have Derek Harmon here for the next 5 years, that's a hell of a pairing. So I really like this pick. I think this is the most likely pick at 23. The next guy, Darius Alexander out of Toledo. He is 6'4", 310. Here's something I messed up last week, guys. I said that Landon Jackson's age was 25. I messed that up. The guy that I had on my sheet at the time was actually Darius Alexander. I mixed up their ages. Age is a concern for Darius Alexander. He's going to be 25 this year. So, again, I always own my mistakes. I'll probably make more. I might need to make some more on this episode, right? Darius Alexander is the guy who's 25. I think that completely takes him out of the question in the first round. The Packers are not going to pick him in the first. Absolutely zero chance. But I do think his age could have him falling, and if he falls to 54, whatever their pick is, 53, 54, second round, I could see them picking him. He checks every other box, guys. The age is the only box he doesn't check. He had a 9.14 RAS. He's 41 in the consensus board. PFF has him at 23, which is interesting. He's also a Senior Bowl guy. So you guys know the Senior Bowl matters. The Packers like the Senior Bowl. He did really, really well at the Senior Bowl. Like I said, his age takes me out of... I don't think he's going to be in round one. They did take Devontae Wyatt at 24 a few years back, but he's a lot more NFL ready than Alexander is. And Devontae Wyatt, guys, he fell to 28, I believe, in 2022. There were a lot of mock drafts that had him going in the top 10. So I think the Packers were like, yeah, you know what? His age, screw it. We're just going to pick him anyway. But Darius Alexander, again, a freak athlete. He had a 90 overall grade last year. Fantastic. 90 overall grade in run defense. 78 grade in pass rush. So interest a little bit lower there. 12.9% pass rush win rate. That's really good. Very good. Speed to power is his biggest strength. Sorry, guys, we'll go with strengths really quick. Speed to power, conversion. He has a great first step. Speed to power, the Packers like that. Really, really strong against double teams. He has 34-inch arms. So, again, every box that the Packers want to check, Darius Alexander checks them, except for his age. Okay, and we have a guy in the cornerback pod that you guys will hear about that checks every box as well, except for age. Slide and swim move, deadly. It's insane. Super versatile guy. Toledo had him playing at edge a little bit, which is interesting. I don't think he's an edge guy in the NFL, but I could see him maybe on early downs playing at the edge. Again, very athletic guy, long arms. So he's versatile, right? The V word. There's going to be a couple other guys in this list that have the V word as well, versatile. Ton of mass on his frame, but he does play a lot lighter than his weight. Weaknesses, he does play too high at times. That leads to some inconsistency. Again, this is a very common theme with the guys that are high in the round or the draft board. And this can be coached out. I'm not super concerned about this at all, but I do think it's interesting. It's why he's been a little less productive than he could have been. He's very slow off the ball. NFL Draft Buzz says there are times that he's last off the ball. So his timing needs work. That's something that can be coached again. His conditioning has been seen as a problem. That's interesting for being as athletic as him. But it does show up in his explosiveness a little bit. I mean, if you think about it, right, you're 40 plays into a game and your conditioning is an issue, you're not going to be the first off the ball at that point. Last thing, he's a little too top heavy in his weight, causes some imbalance. Again, if it wasn't for his age, guys, I think that he would be a surefire option at 23. In fact, I think that they would like him more than Harmon if his age wasn't there. Again, he checks every box. There is a scenario if they trade back, which I think if there was ever a season to trade back, guys, I said this in another episode, this is the season to do it. Will they? We'll see. But if they took him late in the first, early in the second, I think that's a possibility. I didn't almost want to put him on the list because he's not going to make it to 53, and he's too early to pick a 23 for them. Okay? So, again, not a huge difference here between Harmon, Grant, and Alexander outside of age, right? Pass rush ability either. Grant's the best run defender that we have so far. Has a high ceiling as a pass rusher. Harmon's more ready as a pass rusher. Alexander's kind of a mix of both. Okay, so that's Darius Alexander out of Toledo. I like him, but he's a little too old for the Packers to pick him, I think. Next guy, Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. We're going to touch on him really quick. He is strictly a run defender. He is a TJ Slaton replacement. Now, if the Packers picked him at 23, I would throw him on a computer. But I do think there's a chance he could fall to their second-round pick. He's 6'3", 327, so big guy. Still not as big as Kenneth Grant, by the way, which is crazy. He's 22 years old, very athletic, doesn't have any testing yet, but you can see he's athletic for his size. Consensus board has him at 47. He's 37 on PFF's board. He'd be an instant contributor in run defense, but he is far and away not even close to a good pass rusher yet. So being a one-way guy, somebody who has so much room yet to grow as a pass rusher, I think that takes him off the Packers' radar. Again, last year, 79 overall grade, 59 grade as a pass rusher. He only won on 6.6% of his pass rushes. So just for comparison's sake, Derek Harmon was 18%. So he's 3 times better of a pass rusher than Tyleik Williams. He did have an 89 run defense grade. Like I said, he's a great run defender. He's pro-ready in that aspect. He has a good, strong first step, allows him to shoot gaps. Stack and shut ability is good. He uses this corkscrew technique against double teams, which is interesting. 0 pass rush moves. if he were to be a pass rusher immediately in the NFL, he'd have to rely on speed to power. And I don't think that's going to work out very well for him. So I don't see him. I think there's a very low chance the Packers pick him in round 1. But if he was there in round 2, I would be, especially if they didn't pick a guy in the first at defensive tackle, I could see him being an option there. The NFL comp to him is Daron Payne. That's pretty accurate, I would say. Strictly a nose tackle. He's not going to be worth it to me. If he were there in round 2, if they didn't get a defensive tackle in the first round, again, he has a direct role this season if he gets picked as a run defender, purely as a TJ Slayton replacement. But you can't put him in on pass downs, zero chance. That's going to take him out of the consideration. So that's Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. Next guy, TJ Sanders out of South Carolina. I really like this guy. 6'4", 290, 8.52 relative athletic score. That's really good. 68 in the consensus board, but he's 36 on the PFF board, so PFF really likes him. He is strictly a second-round guy to me, but he has Packer written all over him. He's a little bit on the lighter side, 290. I do think he's a little bit redundant with Devontae Wyatt, at least at this season. But again, if they decide that Wyatt isn't going to be a re-sign, it makes a lot of sense. 2025, his fit would be situational pass rusher, and I think he could make a pretty good impact right away. He had an 82 overall grade from PFF, 82 pass rush grade, 12.6 pass rush win rate, which is solid. He had a 90 grade, though, in the true pass rush sets. Like I said earlier, that's where the pass rush is obvious, right? Only a 77 run defense grade. Interesting. Again, his pass rush is pro-ready, and I think that there's opportunity there. I do think he's probably gone before the Packers pick in the second, but if let's just say they went Jaden Higgins in the first round, TJ Sanders in the second, I would love that. He's not a first-round guy, though, not a chance. His strengths, really, really fast hands. That's all over the tape. He's got long arms. Packers love that. Again, super athletic, long arms. PFF says he's a competitive third-down player. That's an interesting thing. I think that you see that on his tape. I didn't look to see what down they were on. Really, I don't pay attention to that very much. But again, if that's the case, his upside immediately as a pass rusher is really high, right? He's very twitchy and athletic for his size. Obviously, you see that with the RAS score. Explosive first step. As far as his weaknesses go, his hand precision and play strength are a problem. Again, he's not super strong. I didn't look to see what his bench press was, but I can't assume it was very good. So he does lose leverage because of that early on. Again, he wasn't graded super well as a run defender. I think he has some potential there, but he gets a little over-aggressive. He overshoots gaps. So that's Hafley's bread and butter, right? Shoot gaps early to stop the run. He could do that. I think he's a little inconsistent there. Like I said, he overruns it a bit, but that could be coached. He does not hold up well against double teams. That is why I think at this point he's more of a one-way player, but he has some room to add some weight. The last thing, this is really bad. I saw his tackling is really bad. Is he redundant with Devontae Wyatt? I think he is. And it's funny because that's also what Devontae Wyatt struggles with, is tackling. The amount of missed sacks that Devontae Wyatt has. Oof. But that's TJ Sanders. I really liked him a lot. If they took him in the second round, I would be really happy with that. He's just not a round one guy. He's not going to replace TJ Slayton, so there's not really an immediate role there outside of a pass rusher, which they need. I think Kenny Clark's going to play the nose. Devontae Wyatt's going to be in as a 3-tech, whatever it's called. He's not a Slayton replacement. So I just see that as kind of a little bit redundant. One thing I do like about him, this is why I like him so much, right? I'm sort of kidding. He has this like air guitar thing he does when he gets a sack. So obviously I love it. So next guy, CJ West out of Indiana. So his height is a little bit of a problem. His size and height are kind of concerning. So he's a second, maybe probably a third round pick. He's 6'2", 317, 9.14 relative athletic score. That's really good. Again, that's a score out of 0 to 10. So 9.14 is really good. He's 99 on the consensus board, 109 on PFF. He's strictly a third round guy. That's how the NFL sees him. Personally, I think he is okay in the second. Packers will like him better than the other teams. He's strictly, pass rush specialist. He's going to be competing with the Carl Brooks and Colby Wooden at the end of the roster, but super athletic. He does have a ton of upside. Lance Zierlein from NFL Network or NFL.com, he compared him to Kenny Clark, which is interesting. So he's actually the same exact size as Kenny Clark when he came out. So Indiana played him as a nose tackle. So he had to be a really good run defender this last season. So I think he does have the run stopping ability despite his size. It's a total upside bet here with him, right? He super athletic, very strong. PFF says this, and this is very good. This is what PFF said about him. West is on the shorter side, has some bad length, but he does have good mass and burst as a nose tackle, who can have strong reps in run defense and some surprisingly impactful reps as a pass rusher. If he can keep his pad level down, he can be a contributing rotational player in the NFL, probably in a 4-3 front. So I do see a fit here. Third round guy, absolutely, potentially a fourth. His PFF grade, 84 overall grade, 88 run defense grade, only a 72 pass rush grade, 10% pass rush win rate. It's a meh thing there. For his size to be able to stop the run, I think he can add more size. I do think that he's an interesting player. He's definitely more of a projection as a pass rusher, but I do like him. I like him a lot. I do. I like CJ West. Third round only. If the Packers picked him in the second, I could see it, but I would not like it. His strengths, super high energy, high effort guy. He tends to fatigue offensive linemen. That's what the NFL Draft Buzz said. I think that's very true. Excellent explosiveness, great quick first step. He's really quick both linear and laterally. He has a really good knife technique. He cuts through the gap like butter, according to PFF. I think that's accurate. Technique is a strength for him. That's what makes him a good run defender, guys. Technique. It's not because he's big. It's also not because he's super strong either. It's because of technique, and that's great. I think, again, we have technique. That's a check. He's a run defender in a team that asked him to be a nose guy, despite being more of a pass rush build. So a very interesting guy. Weaknesses, another guy with pad level issues. My God, they all have pad level issues. He gets easily washed out by down blocks. That's true. He does not have the length that the Packers like typically in their guys. Arm length is a little bit of a concern. It does lead to some long-term explosiveness and pass rushes. You can see it on his tape. Like he'll beat the tackle, and then it'll take him a while to actually get there. So again, despite being athletic, that seems to happen quite a bit. So again, I like him. He has a high ceiling as a pass rusher. That's why I like him in round 3. If they go, let's just say they go Will Johnson in the first, Jack Beck in the second, then they go, CJ West in the third, I think that's a good draft. Okay, so the next couple guys, the guys we just went through, those are all round 1 through 3 guys. Okay? And all of those guys are going to be high on the Packers board, I can promise you that. And those are all the guys that I think are worth a top 100 pick. There are a few other guys, we don't have their testing yet, that are interesting. Shamar Turner out of Texas A&M. He's 6'4", 300, so he's got some size there. But he doesn't have a ton of athletic upside, according to the scouting reports. So he's a round 2 to 3 guy. I don't think the Packers are going to like him that much. Alfred Collins is interesting out of Texas. He's 6'5", 320. I do like his tape, but he's going to be 24 when the season starts. So again, if he falls to the third, I could see that maybe. But we don't have his testing numbers. We don't know that. The last guy is interesting. Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee. Very athletic. We don't have testing on him. He's 6'3", 315. PFF compared him to Kenny Clark. So Lance Zierlein compared CJ West to Kenny Clark. PFF compared him to Kenny Clark. He played about 20 snaps a game last year, which is sort of odd for a guy that is so good at pass rushing. I don't know. If he tests well, and I think his pro day is coming up, I could see him maybe being like a third-round guy, but I would not take him before that. Next guy, Joshua Farmer from Florida State. 6'3", 318. He is 78 on the consensus board, 77 on PFF's grade. We won't get into him a ton. He has a 7.86 RAS score, so that's solid. I liked his tape. I did. He has long arms, which the Packers will like. PFF grade last year, 63 overall, 71 pass rush, 76 in true pass sets, only a 9.4% pass rush win rate, and only a 61 run defense grade. That's interesting and bad. He does have a little bit of size and strength. He does use good pad level, can get underneath the guard a little bit. He's a complete projection as a pass rusher and run defender. So again, his grades weren't good. So that's somebody who, hey, we could see him being good. I wouldn't take him before the 4th or 5th round, personally. I think some team is going to pick him in the 3rd. Again, you see it on the PFF consensus boards, the PFF board and the consensus board. I just don't think he's a fit. But I wanted to put him on here because he technically matches the size with his arm length. decently athletic guy, but I'm still going to have to probably pass on him. The next guy, oh boy, I love this guy. Woo! I want you guys to pull the tape up on this guy. His name is Ty Robinson out of Nebraska. He is 6'6", 310, massive. He's 109 on the consensus board. PFF has him at 241, which is strange. He's a freak show athlete, 9.86 RAS, and he's a Senior Bowl guy. So, Ty Robinson, Nebraska, very interesting guy. Some of the draft sites have him listed as an edge rusher, which is interesting. Others have him at defensive tackle, so I think he's versatile. His RAS is what has him on this list. I love this dude. Again, I can't tell you guys enough. He's a freak show. Pull up the tape. He looks like the dude on. He looks like Stone Cold Steve Austin's character on Longest Yard. It's hilarious. So Nebraska even had him playing fullback a little bit. He played defensive end, defensive tackle, fullback, probably kicker too. Kidding. Next Gen Stats clocked him at 20.64 miles per hour this season, twice. That's crazy. So he's big and he's quick. No bad weight on the guy. He's yoked. I can guarantee you guys he is higher on the backers board than a 5th round grade like the other boards have him. He's probably a 4th to upper 3rd round grade for him. If they miss out on the guy they want early at edge or defensive tackle, I guarantee you they'll find a way to draft this guy. And they might find a way to draft him regardless. His tape is super fun, incredible motor on him, strength, high effort guy, again, nonstop motor, powerful hands, devastating bull rush, speed to power is off the charts with this guy. You guys know I said it last week. Speed to power is something that the Packers like. Really fast get off, super quick, coming off the line. If the O-lineman messes up with their hands, he just has the ability to just toss them aside. So on top of being strong, he also has the ability to get skinny and cut gaps. So another thing I love about him, his closing speed is insane. Like he beats the tackle or guard, and he is on the quarterback's chest. So you'll see it on the tape. Last thing, super versatile. He can play edge. He can play defensive tackle, all up and down the line. I think he could even stand up in a 3-4. I like this guy a lot. I am surprised PFF doesn't like him more. The consensus board, again, 109 is not bad. That's like a 3rd or 4th round pick. Weaknesses, struggles with pad level. That's, again, something you can coach him on. Erratic hand placement himself. Struggles against double teams because he's not the heaviest guy. So like a bigger offensive lineman is going to give him trouble. Somebody who relies on quickness, like kind of like an Elton Jenkins or maybe a Zach Tom, somebody who's a little bit more of an athlete than a big guy. He can beat those types of guys. He's not going to beat a bigger guy typically. I think he can down the road, but it's not where he's at currently. Lateral agility is an issue when he plays the run. Yes. His pass rush plan is raw. It's all bull rush. Doesn't have a lot of bend either. That's concerning. But again, if he's playing defensive tackle, he doesn't really need it. Last thing, he has short arms. So that's going to be a little bit of a concern. But again, let's go through this again. 6'6", 310, 9.86 RAS, and he's a Senior Bowl guy. So I think the Packers are going to like this guy a lot. I would keep your eye out on the draft visits to see if this guy comes in. So they're not going to pick him in the 1st or 2nd. Maybe the 3rd, though. Maybe the 4th. I could totally see it. Again, freak show. Put his tape on. Ty Robinson, Nebraska. All the stuff that he struggles with, you can coach out of him. So if I can promise you guys, the Packers are going to take this guy. I bet they draft this guy in the 4th round. I just have a feeling watching him. He just screams Packer. Next guy, Tonka Hemingway from South Carolina. Yes, his name is Tonka. 6'3", 288, 183 on the PFF board, 224 on consensus, 8.84 RAS, so solid athlete. More of a 5th round and on type of guy. I did like him a lot. Not a lot, but I liked him. PFF graded him at 70 this past year, 73 pass rush grade, only 65 run defense grade. So the 8.84 RAS will put him in play for the Packers, but there's really not a lot of tape out there. I had a hard time finding him. There's almost no highlight tape for him. His strengths, according to NFL Draft Buzz, versatile. He played up and down the line in college. First step is good. High football IQ. He's able to sniff out screens on tape. Well-developed pass rush plan for being a lower draft pick. Great at slashing through gaps. Got a solid amount of bend. His weaknesses, though, below average anchor. Again, high pad level. You'll hear this a lot. Poor hand usage. His athleticism that he has does not show up on tape either. He's kind of a bad tackler, very one-dimensional as a pass rusher. So, again, he's a late-round guy. He's a 4th, 5th, or probably a 5th, 6th round guy, but I like him. Tonka Hemingway, check him out. Last guy, Zeke Biggers from Georgia Tech. He is 6'6", 320. Yeah, I'll repeat that. 6'6", 320. He's only 284 on the consensus board, but he is 201 on PFF's board. He's the last guy we're going to do deep dive on, by the way. But he had a 9.7 RAS, so that's really good. Super athletic guy. Strengths, he's got really long arms, 35-inch arms. So he's got some length. He's pretty agile for his size, got strong hands. Again, a versatile guy. What's interesting about him, and this is what NFL Draft Buzz said, and I thought this is really interesting. He transformed his body in college. When he came into college, he was not 320. So he was able to build up and add that weight. So that shows he's got some work ethic there. He's got some natural leverage with his size. He's good at read and react as well. Weaknesses, he's slow off the ball. I think you can fix that. The only pass rush move he has is a bull rush. He only had 1 sack his senior year. So his production is why he's a 6th, 7th round pick probably. And he plays a little too high, misses a lot of tackles, top heavy in general. But I like him. Zeke Biggers, Georgia Tech. This is somebody the Packers are going to have high on their board. Higher on their board than consensus. Sorry, not high. They're not going to pick him in the first. They probably have a day 3 grade on him, but with where he's at on the consensus board, I think the Packers have him higher than that. Now, just to touch on a couple other guys that the Packers are probably going to like, Sebastian Valdez out of Washington. He's like 500 something on the consensus board. His 3-cone, his shuttle, 40-yard dash, bends, all good. So his numbers are really strong there. His 10 split was in the 90th percentile, 9.24 RAS. So he's intriguing as maybe a 7th rounder, UDFA kind of guy. Next guy, Jared Harrison Hunt. Southern Methodist is the school he's from. Yes, it's a real school. I had to Google it. 9.67 RAS, 33-inch arms. So the Packers will like him. 270 in the consensus. He's a 7th round guy, right? Maybe undrafted guy, but I like him. Like his athletic profile at least. I didn't watch highlights of any of these guys, by the way, or tape. Last guy, Warren Brinson out of Georgia, a.k.a. Goody's favorite school, Georgia. Warren Brinson's interesting. I did watch a little bit of Warren Brinson. He scored a 9.09 RAS. Another massive dude. He's 6'5", 315. So his explosiveness scores are really good. 37-inch vertical at 315, that's crazy. He had a 9.7 broad jump. That's the 95th percentile. He's 278 in the consensus board, so again, maybe a 7th round option. So that's going to do it for today, guys. Those are all the defensive tackle prospects. So again, very top heavy. I do think that the defensive tackle is the most likely position in round 1. It's the betting favorite. I said it earlier. I think that if it's me, you had to ask, hey, Ian, who are the Packers going to pick at 23? Derek Harmon would be my answer out of Oregon. I fell in love with him watching his tape. I made a Madden profile for him. Yes, I'm that kind of guy. He has potential to make an immediate impact this season. I think for the future, him and Wyatt could be a hell of a tandem together. I've been doing a lot of mock drafts, guys, a lot of mock draft simulators. Derek Harmon is always there. So I do think that means they're going to have a selection there. I don't know if he will be there in the real draft. It just takes one team to fall in love with him. But it's interesting to me. I think he is a fun player. Kenneth Grant's great too. Walter Nolan's great. If I'm them, I would go wide receiver in the first round still. Get Higgins or Ibuka, or I like Luther Burden now. I've seen some arguments that he could be there. He could be a Packers guy. If Ted McMillan falls, I would love that. I think the second round, you can still get one of these guys. Like if we went Higgins, then CJ West, and then we went Jordan Burch at edge in the 3rd round, I think that would be fun. We'll talk about all the scenarios coming up. Next episode, like I said earlier, cornerback breakdown. Then we'll do offensive line. Then we'll do a linebacker, running back, tight end sort of compilation. Who will the guys like at those positions? Which positions are they most likely to pick? Then we'll talk about some different scenarios. At some point, like I said, we'll probably do a linebacker breakdown because they do need bodies there. I'm thinking. We'll see you guys. But thank you so much for listening. Like I said, next episode, looking forward to that. Cornerback, I might have it up tonight / early this week. We'll see. I already have it all written up. I just got to record it. So thank you guys for listening. Give it a like. Give it a thumbs up. Download it if you can. Tell your friends. Tell your family about it. Thank you for listening, guys. Go Pack, go.